Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Hot Tea and High Seas with Chelsea Opera. Again, I am Garrett Heater, the producing artistic director of Chelsea Opera, and today I am joined by Joanie Brittingham. How you doing?
Hello,
Nice
I'm
to
doing
see
quite
you.
well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And first things first, the most important question of all the questions I'll be asking you, what tea are you drinking today?
Well, because we're coming up on Thanksgiving, I am drinking a cranberry orange spice tea.
Funny you mentioned that because I'm drinking a spiced mandarin. So we're a little
Ooh,
citrusy today. I like
yeah,
that. I like
citrusy and a little
that.
that little hint of spice makes a citrus tea just even more delicious.
It goes a long way, I have to say,
Uh-huh.
especially since the weather is definitely has turned the corner.
Yes.
We have a lovely
Winter
fall though.
winter
I
is
know.
upon us.
It is. Winter is coming. So, Joni, where are you and what are you doing there?
I am in New Jersey, just across the river from Manhattan. Did not move here because of the pandemic. I was not one of the people who fled New York. Um, my husband and I moved to New Jersey in the summer of 2019 because he began law school. So living
Gotcha.
that hashtag commuter life,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
although not anymore. Now it's my studio and always there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know what you mean about the commuting. I teach in Harlem, pre-K through 5, and I live in the Bronx, so my commute is 40 minutes. But now we're remote, so now I'm back home in Syracuse
Oh,
because
wow.
because of the pandemic nonsense going on. So schools are closed in New York City.
Yeah,
All right, so you have a history with Chelsea Opera,
I do. I
and
do. The first role that I sang with Chelsea Opera was Laurie in the Tenderland. And it was such a wonderful experience. I had not been in New York City very long, and it was a role that I had been told for ages, oh, this is perfect for you. Oh, this is perfect for you. And the audition was really unique because for the audition we had to sing one of the arias, and I didn't pick the one everybody knows. I did one of the other ones, one of the later second or third. I don't remember which of the two, but and then for the callback, they had potential Lauries and uh, potential. They had the soprano and the tenor,
right,
and we had to learn a section of the duet. And then they paired us off and had us sing and then mixed us up so that they
sure.
could see that stage chemistry building. Um, so that was a really unique way to do it, and it was one of those auditions where, and callbacks too, where I felt like, wow, I sang really well, and I'm just really happy with how I acted. And I think even if they don't hire me for this, I think they like me and they'll hire me for something down the road. And then, sure enough, I got the role. It was the first New York Times review I got. So it was just a wonderful experience. And Lee played my mother. So when we see each other, which has been a while because of COVID, but
Yeah.
when we see each other, she still says, "Oh, there's my daughter."
Right.
Um, and Lynne directed that one too.
Yeah,
So
and now that you mentioned Lynn, I have to tell you, and I'm not talking out of school here, but I did an interview with Lynn, and this show came up, and she mentioned to me how your audition in particular, it was like you had the it factor that they were looking for,
oh,
and the gentleman that you were paired with, the tenor, she said that you guys clicked so well, and that I forget the actual phrase she used, but it was like you were opening your heart to those who were present, who were listening, and that you were heads and tails, above the rest of the auditioners in that process. So she spoke very
oh.
very highly of you, and it seems to me to be a very nice memory that she has of her time directing over the past
and
17
and
seasons.
and it was a nice memory for me too, for auditioning, because in that first couple of years in New York, it's really easy to be discouraged, in part because some places you go and audition and they don't care. They don't care about you as a person, but that's not the way Chelsea Opera operates. They really see and value the singers, in part because Lee and Lynne, when they started this company, they were singers.
Right.
And they brought that aspect of valuing that inner heart of a person, as well as their voice and the work and the time that they put into their art. They really communicated that at every level.
I have to tell you that in doing this series of interviews with past Chelsea Opera performers, that is something that keeps coming up over and over again, is the warmth that Lee and Lynne consistently displayed with their singers, but also that Chelsea Opera seemed to take a chance on young talent with people who were just getting their foot in the door, especially in New York
absolutely.
City, in a very,
absolutely.
very difficult profession. So it's really nice that you share the same sentiment that other people that I've talked to share as well. So Chelsea Opera was really important for you at the beginning of your career. What opportunities came after your time with Chelsea Opera?
Oh, wow. It just kind of exploded from there. It just,
Sure.
In that year and the following, it was just like constant casting. And then,
Yeah.
as happens with careers, and I remember complaining to my teacher about it. She's like, because I was like, I was doing so well. What happened? And she said, nothing. You didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. It's not anything you did. That's just how it works. She said, one day I was singing at Zurich Opera, the next I didn't have a gig for 6 months. So it became kind of this, it's more like a hillside, a series of hills.
A lovely landscape, right?
Yes. So it's a lovely landscape, and sometimes you're, singing and doing lots, and sometimes you're in between job or teaching or doing a lot of different things. But since that performance with Chelsea Opera, I have had the opportunity to sing throughout New York City and regionally and internationally, and have had some success with competitions and other things. So it's been good. So much so that narrowing down and saying like, oh yes, this and that, like I feel like I would leave people out that were.
Yeah, just saying that you had an explosive career following your time with Chelsea Opera. I think every singer wants to be able to say that, I enjoyed an explosion with my career. Absolutely. Yeah. And with your time with Chelsea Opera, I know you mentioned the Tenderlands. And were there any memories maybe in the rehearsal process with Lynne, who directed you in that production, that stand out to you as being like a quintessential Chelsea Opera memory with Lynne as your director?
I think it's more general than a specific thing.
Sure.
That, Lynne was just always, she was just very, and I've worked with other directors who've been very physically involved, from directors who say things like, here, I'll be you, and then they push me out of the way.
Right.
Show me what they wish to do.
Do it like me, right.
Or they're like, no, I want you to stand over here and drag me to where they wish me to be. But Lynne, she was physical in a way that was always welcoming. It was always placing a hand, and it was something that it was comforting and comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and a way of communicating. You can be more vulnerable.
Yeah.
So she really helped with some more depth.
Gotcha. And during this time, we're kind of steering another nationwide lockdown, and artists are watching any opportunities that might have presented themselves during the summer months, singing outdoors, what have you, with the colder weather, those are fading and people are spending more time indoors and artists are seeing their performance opportunities dwindle or become non-existent completely. As a professional singer yourself, do you have any advice for singers who are struggling at this time?
Um, well, and I come from a very lucky position where I'm still working. Um, I recently recorded a newly composed series of podcast operas, which was strange because I was in a room with a glass wall and the music director was masked on the other side of the studio, and so there was the isolation booth wall and then
Yeah,
another wall between
yeah.
us, and the engineer could see me through a camera and I could hear uh, the people who'd recorded before me and the MIDI for the people who were recording after me,
Yeah.
which was a strange way to create an opera. No rehearsal, you just show up in the studio and there you go. And I actually have my piano is over there, and I have piles of music on it. Um, things that I have to record, things that I need to be working on for later. So I recognize how lucky I am that I
Gotcha.
have those opportunities. Some of those opportunities are things I have created for myself.
It's great.
You know,
It's great.
co-curating a show with a friend through Opera on Tap. She and I are co-producing, and
Cool.
it's an homage, a comedy homage to the Jonas Kaufmann Christmas album, where we do operatic versions of Christmas
Mariah
music.
Carey,
So
right?
she's doing a Rossini-esque interpretation of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. I spent part of today because I'm accompanying myself. I spent part of the day re-envisioning the accompaniment for Holly Jolly Christmas to be like a Bellini concert aria.
Fantastic.
And these are things that pre-pandemic I would never have done. I would never have been caught dead accompanying myself in public because I know how well I play the piano. So I guess my advice to other singers and other artists is don't be afraid to experiment and play around. Like, yeah, it's going to wind up on the internet and it'll be there forever, but there's so much noise on the internet that it'll disappear eventually.
Gotcha.
Um, and, take this time to learn new skills. A year ago, I didn't know how to use Adobe Creative Suite. I'm still working on Photoshop and Illustrator, but I now know how to use Premiere Pro. I know how to do my own audio recordings. I'm still learning how to mix and master myself, but it's something that it's like this is a useful skill far beyond this.
Yeah,
I have,
absolutely.
for this particular video, like I'll be accompanying myself, but I'm going to, audio record before I video, and then I'm going to video myself singing it in front of a green screen and put myself in front of my own piano as if I am two people.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be comic gold. I mean, I promise it will be funny. And these are the kinds of things that we can do right now. Is we can play with
Right.
these aspects, and we can reinvigorate our art in ways that have not been seen before. I once heard someone say that limits don't diminish your creativity. They they allow your creativity to flourish. You know,
Absolutely.
a painter, and yes, there are some people who go beyond it, but a painter has a canvas, and that's the limit. And there are some people who have chosen to paint onto the wall past the canvas so that they break that limit, and that's fine. That is interesting and exciting to do. And so we can take the limits that we have been given and learn new things and experiment with new things and find new ways to make opera vibrant.
Yeah, and relevant during this time. Now, you mentioned the podcast opera or operas. And what platform is that available on if people want to check that out?
It has not been released yet. That is through Experiments in Opera, and they are releasing all episodes at once on December 7th.
Okay,
So
and where?
that's available everywhere that you can get podcasts.
Okay,
So
good. I just want our listeners to know that, absolutely.
yeah.
So now you are working during the pandemic, but you must also have an eye toward the future. What opportunities are you eyeballing once we get back to quote unquote normal?
Oh, that's a good question. I I'm I'm mostly thinking about the here and now,
Absolutely.
and trying to be, one of the things that I think adds stress as an artist is this idea that like I have a gig today, but tomorrow I'll be unemployed, and this is something that caused pretty severe anxiety for a long time, and now it's like, I didn't need any of that, because there might not be work.
Right. We don't know what the industry is going to look like after, or the changes that may be permanent, good, bad, or otherwise, because of something like this. We don't know what the
Right,
lasting effects are going to be.
right, and the things that we grow to count on, none of it is permanent, and that has to be okay because you don't have any choice. There's an idea that like, oh, teaching is safe as a day job, as a support mechanism, but even I only had one class as an adjunct, and my class for the spring has been canceled.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, it's things that seem solid may not be, um, and that might, it's disappointing while it's happening. Um, but in the meanwhile, people are still making art, and they're thinking about making music in a way that, when we come back um, from the coronavirus, when we are able to gather in a room and sing with other people, that's going to bring so many people joy. I mean,
For
do you
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
have you heard any music other than music you have made in your own home? Like
Oh, oh,
in terms of an
no,
acoustic, not through headphones or
no.
speakers. Yeah, and that, there's a physical aspect to that I think a lot of people forget. What's it going to be like to go back to a church job and feel the vibrations from the organ?
Yeah.
Um, I think we're going to see a real outpouring.
And maybe one would assume that the art form in general, live music performance, maybe won't be taken for granted perhaps as much as it has been in the
Oh yeah,
past.
oh certainly. I think people will have to, people have had to rethink their values and rethink what is important to me.
Yeah.
What's important in this time? What is important for my future? And I think that is really shifting a lot. I don't intend to go back to hurrying. I was always in a hurry.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you mentioned picking up new skill sets during this time. And do you find yourself thinking, I'm going to be able to use this again later?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. To be able to say, to be able to, from start to finish, I can record an aria or an art song, as long as the piano part's easy. Um, I can
That's a
record,
pretty big qualifier, Joni. I don't know.
right? Well, I know my piano skills. I'm realistic. Um, I'm not going to be playing, you know, I'm not going to be accompanying myself on the Rachmaninoff vocalese anytime
Okay.
soon.
All right.
But I know that now that I can, from start to finish, do every aspect of a recording project. or a video project.
That's phenomenal. That's
And
phenomenal.
that is an incredibly useful skill when I think about how much it costs
Mm-hmm.
to make a professionally edited, professionally filmed audition video. And now I can do it for me.
Right.
And
Exceptional.
that's very useful. Yeah.
Great. Well, Joni, guess what? Our time together has come to an end. That flew by.
You
I
really
would like
did.
to, I did. I would like to ask you before you go, if you would like to end this interview on a high note.
I will, and I'll pull my microphone, my headphones microphone as far away.
Brava, brava. Well done. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning
Thank
in to
you.
another episode of Hot Tea and High Seas with Chelsea Opera. Today, we were joined by Joanie Brittingham, and we want to thank you, Joanie, for hanging out with us today. We really enjoyed that conversation. Thank you so much. And to everybody else, we'll be seeing you. Take it easy.